G'day! Today I'm going to take you through a edit of a seascape taken down at Port Macdonald. You can see in this picture it's a little bit flat. It's because I used a 10-stop ND filter during the middle of the day, and it tends to just flatten the image out a bit. I used that filter just to get the 2-second exposure, just to soften that water. So anyway, we'll see if we can brighten it up a little bit. So first of all, I'm just going to make a virtual copy. Go into Develop module. First up, you can see it's very cold, and also it's very crooked. So if we go into our lens correction, and then crop, first thing we'll do is straighten that. So if we take our cursor off the picture over here on the side, left click and hold and drag up and down, and I just use that grid to get that horizon straight. Because that's the ocean and the horizon, that has to be straight. It's like nature's spirit level. Okay, so first things first, we'll go into the basic panel, and you can see here it's an Adobe standard. The quickest and easiest way to brighten this up for a start is put Adobe Landscape, and that'll saturate those colors just a little bit more for us, and then we can work through. We can add a little bit of warmth. I won't touch the tint and exposure. If we look at the histogram, it's not too bad. There's a bit of stuff here to the left, which I think would be this area here, this dark area, and highlights are certainly, there's no highlights at all. So we can probably just boost that a little bit. A little bit of contrast, not too much. I'm not a huge fan of contrast. Highlights, I'm going to leave them. If you want to center these sliders, you just double click on the word, and that'll put it to where, or in this case I had an import preset, so it was set at -10. Anyway, shadows are something that need to come right up to bring that. You can see here, over here in these rocks, if you just watch as I pull those shadows up, and that's the beauty of shooting in RAW. It gives you all that extra detail to work with. Okay, so we can just bring them up to about there. Set our white point, so we press and hold the Alt key, left click and hold and drag the white slider to the right, just until you start to get some artifacts there, and then until they just disappear. Sometimes this doesn't work, and in this case it hasn't. It's just too much white, so I'll just back that down. Just going to leave it there for now. You can do the same for the blacks. Press and hold the Alt key, left click and drag the slider down. So that's not too bad. So I'm going to pull that down a little bit. Seems a bit. Now, this is the sort of image that lends itself well to texture, because there's a lot of rocks and the cliffs here and grass and sand. So clarity and texture is something you can add quite liberally. Vibrance, let's take that to +10. And I don't think I'm going to add any extra saturation. And our details and the sharpening, Just zoom in on something on these rocks. I want to sharpen to about probably 75. Like I've said in other videos, I just bring them back. I don't really take too much attention to what that is. And we press the I key, we'll see it's shot at ISO 100, and also see it here, ISO 100. So really there's no noise reduction that needs to be done. Tone curve I'm going to leave, effects, everything there I'm going to leave for now. Okay, so now we just need to give this, I think, just a few pops of light and a bit of depth. So first of all, I'm just going to darken this corner down with a graduated filter. So we'll just make sure that's exposure, negative, and just press the O key just to see what part of that's being affected. So this just helps break up that even flat look. Probably just bring up the highlights in these rocks just a little bit with an adjustment brush, also with exposure, but this time positive. So a bit of plus exposure, and I'm going to add a bit of texture and clarity as well. A little bit of sharpness. We'll just adjust that brush size. I've shown you before, just use the roller on your mouse, or you can adjust it here with the slider. So we want that flow at about 75 and the feather at about 85. Will do. And then just paint that on. Not too much. Adjust your brush size. You don't want that to spill over. Okay, so that just gives that a bit of depth. You can just press the O key and see where you've been with that. Just want to raise that little bit of seaweed there as well. Now instead of just keeping on going with the same brush, you can stop, press done, and then bring up another brush in case you want to change the strength of the exposure. So I just want to bring up these foamy bits in the water here. Just a little bit, not too much. And just back that down a bit. Okay, it's not too bad. Press done. Now I'm going to use a radial filter over here in the water. I'm just going to highlight that bit of green colour in that water there. I just want to bring that out a bit more. So again, we can use exposure, but you can see it's added the exposure to the outside of the filter, so we need to invert that. Okay, so now that's on the inside. I'm going to stretch that out a bit, drag it out a bit. We want to add, feather it as well, and we want to add a bit of texture and clarity, but we want to add saturation. Just try warming that area up a bit and just see what that looks like, or cooling it down. Just leave it at that. And go down here, we can toggle that off. You can see it's just brightening that area up. We make it a bit bigger. Just click done, that's better. Let's put the greens out there. And this part of the picture here to me is looking a little bit flat. So I'm going to add another radial filter. There, just want to bring that down. Need to invert it. Feather it. And same again. Just bring that saturation out in that area. Texture and clarity. And again, we can toggle that off and just see how that's just brightening up that area there. Okay. We just press done. So maybe down here now we can add another radial filter. This time I'm going to turn this one around a bit. Again, invert it. Some texture, quite a bit of texture and clarity, a bit of saturation. And done. Okay, if we want to have a look, we can just press the Y key. So we can see we've brought it, we've brightened it up quite a bit. One thing I'd probably do now, but unless you were going to print this image, I wouldn't do this if you're thinking about printing it, but if you're not going to print it, I would change it to 16:9 ratio, just because it gives it a bit more of a sort of a panorama look. Just want to make sure that's nice and straight still. Yeah, I think that looks better. Just remember, if you think that possibly you print it, you want to also do a normal crop size as well, like 6x4 or something, or as shot. Just so if you ever want to print it, you can print it. You can print 16:9, but you have to order the frames especially. So, okay, I could try just a graduated filter on the sky. Let's pull that down a bit. Just press the O key. You just pull the exposure down a little bit. Not too much. Add some whites, bit of contrast. Saturation, texture. Yeah, more like that. Let's put the blues out in the sky. Just press done. Yeah, I think we're nearly there. Probably just want to reactivate that graduated filter, and you can see if you press the O key that has dragged down over the rocks. So what you want to do there is, while it's still activated, we press brush, erase, And then take your brush over there, just make it a bit smaller, and just brush that off. You don't want that spilling down over what you've already done, undoing what you've already done there. Okay, just be a little bit careful. And then just out here on this rock as well. And done. Okay, so maybe if you think that whole thing's a bit too saturated now, you could just pull it back a little bit. I don't think it needs a vignette. I can try one. Probably wouldn't bother. Okay, so I don't actually think that's too bad. So again, if we look, that's what we started with, and that's how we've brightened it up, lifted the shadows, and just given it a bit more, just brought it to life really. Okay, so I hope you found that helpful, and thanks for watching.